Hey YouTube, out on the electric for a bike ride. It's about 50 degrees. I'm just putting along. I ain't even trying to go fast. Standard 11.5 and PS2. A little bit of effort. You guys out there wondering, you bike owners, at a certain speed the PAS actually cuts power. It won't absolutely show zero, but it isn't actually giving you any extra help. I find that at about 13 miles an hour on PS2. Once you get above 13 miles an hour, the motor ain't doing much of anything. Unlike my Trek, which doesn't equate speed to how much effort it helps you with. It's a set percentage, and no matter what speed you're going, it gives you the same percentage, and that's because it's a torque sensor. This is a cadence sensor, so as long as it sees the pedals moving, it provides a set amount of help at a certain speed. Just the way it is. I don't know if I'm going to go out on the gravel part. The video gets pretty shaky when you get out there. And you can see my hand in the video, so my shadow. There's a few walkers out here, but I haven't seen any cyclists. It's a little chilly. The wind's blowing too. If you've seen my trail videos, you notice that they've cleared a lot of brush from the sides of the trails. Crossing the flat river. This is a rail to trail project. This part of the trail belongs to the city of Belden, pretty much. They're the ones that paved it to this point. It was part of a grant that they got. The trail actually belongs to DNR once you get out of the city. Out there walking around in the power line. It's almost dinner time, so I ain't gonna be able to stay out too long. Well, there's lots of people out here, maybe out fishing. Turned around. So I wanted to talk about what we've done to the bike so far. A lot of you have watched the whole series, but I thought I'd talk about it. So starting with the handlebars, we bought longer handlebars. The ones that come on the bike are 570 millimeters, and these are 670. So they're just a little bit wider than the ones you get on the well, almost 2 inches wider. no, take that back, almost 3/8 of an inch wider than the ones you get on the 2.0. But on the 1.0 you get 570 millimeters, which would be considered a youth handlebar. So we upgraded those. The reason for the upgrade is control. You have much better control with a wider handlebar than you do with the narrow handlebar. Takes a little more input to make the wheel do stuff. Also increase the stability. The next thing we did was tires on this. Karen's still running the original tires, but I did have to rotate them. These are my second set, and they're almost done. So the bike has 2,500 miles roughly on it, and I've went through 2 sets of tires. Namely, the problem with why I've went through 2 sets of tires is my weight. The more you weigh, the faster you're going to go through the tire. That goes with cars, people, whatever. In this case, I'm working on my second set. I might get another 100 miles or 200 miles out of them. I don't really know. After that, we started doing with brakes. First change I did was put a copper metallic compound brake on it. Brake pad, replaced all 4 of them. That improved braking quite a bit. The next step was I replaced the rotors. Wow, there's a few people walking. Hear the frogs. So we replaced the rotors with 180 millimeter front and back, and it required me to buy new adapters for the caliper mounts, and they stop. You hear that? Tires, I bet you a lot of you guys can't get your tire to skid on pavement. They stop quick, so quite of a big improvement as far as that. The next upgrade to the brakes will be the cables. The levers are fine. I'm not going to mess with them. So we'll be doing the cables this spring, front and back. And I will do a video on that so that you guys that are interested in doing it can. The reason you want to change the cables is they're not lined. They're just a simple rubber housed cable, and it makes sense to replace them with a sealed cable with a liner. It will make less friction when you pull the brake lever, and that's 90% of what's wrong with these brakes right now, is that even though you have the problem with the friction from the cable, and it's only a little brake back there, spring that pulls the brake back to the return position. It's easy to overcome that spring with friction. So we're going to get some lined cable housings and sanded cable, stainless steel. They will slide in there slick. You will notice a definite brake lever feel change. My front one's pretty good compared to Karen's. Mine is great, but hers is kind of smushy. And that comes from me. I put grease on the cable and put it back in the housing. I should just do it with the back one until I replace them, but I haven't had much gumption to work on bikes. It's been too cold outside. So I did do a new chain. You need to replace your chain between 1,500 and, well, around 1,500 miles you need to put a new chain. And the reason for that new chain is if you don't, you will end up having problems with wearing out your chain ring and your free wheel. So you need to take that into consideration when you do your maintenance. It's not expensive. You can probably get a bike shop to do it for $25 for the chain and the installation. So the you can buy a heavier duty chain if you look for one that's electric bike specific. I don't think that you need it. Them are more for mid-drive bikes than hub drive, and they're a little more expensive too. My guess is they'll wear out just as quick too, so it's not worth the extra expense. So 1,500 miles, you might get as high as 2,000 depending on what kind of lubrication you use. If you go beyond that, what you're going to find out is that the free wheel has worn into the chain and it will feel rough when you pedal. So that's why you want to change it. It'll bug you. At least it bugs me. We're right downtown Belding right now. So that's why you need to change your chain at 1,500 miles. You usually get two chain 3,000, 4,000 miles out of a free wheel before they start to wear out. And for most of you, that will be a bike shop job to get it changed. Although it requires minimum tools, crescent wrench and a free wheel tool to remove it. You don't really need any tools to put it back on. The chain will tighten it up when you pedal. Other than that, that's what. So total maintenance cost for the bike in 2,500 miles has been, for me, has been around $220. The tires, the last set of tires I bought were $150 shipped. Chain was, I don't even remember, $15, $16. Grips, I replaced the grips on these I'm using. I don't like those shaped grips. They're supposed to be a palm rest to me. They just are uncomfortable, and some people will find that it actually causes carpal tunnel for them. Seat post was $20. Okay, I spent more than $220. Let's add it up. $30 for the handlebar. $10 for the grips. These are locked on grips too, so they don't move. Another $26 for the seat post, so we're up to $52. We'll say $62. tires, $150. Chain, so we're $210. I don't know, $220 in maintenance cost. Not counting the $50 for the seat. I went through 2 of the electric seats before I replaced them with a specialized seat, and I haven't had any problems with this seat. So, and I've got over 1,000 miles on it. Seat fit is a sore subject with me, haha. With most of you guys buying the wrong seats and never giving yourself a chance to actually get a seat that's built for your anatomy. It's just the way it is. I know seats are a personal choice. I get on the electric bike forum and try to talk people out of making poor choices, but most of the time that is just a straight up waste of time. People are going to make the choice they make no matter what you say to them. And then I'm going to tell you my years working in a bike shop, which was many. I think I had I even worked in a bike shop when I was building custom bikes, so maybe 7 years in a bike shop, wrenching and building custom bikes and doing stuff like that. I see many people come in and spend the money on an expensive bike, and then you see it for sale in a newspaper ad, or they come back and tell you that they sold that bike and they're looking for something else that's more comfortable. And so they end up buying another bike, and who knows, that one probably just sits in the garage, because one, they either didn't want to listen to your recommendations, or two, the person that's selling the bike didn't give them any recommendations. So if they're out there trying to ride long distance, the bike has to be well fitted to you, otherwise it's just going to be uncomfortable. My limit on the electric's about 20 miles. Once I get on around that range, my butt's usually so sore, or my hands are sleeping, or it's just not really well fitted. But there's not much you can do about it because of the parts and pieces. I could do it if the money was no object. I could go ahead and spend the money and get rid of the stem, the beanstalk stem, and find something that I could buy an appropriate stem for. But yeah, it is what it is, and I wish some people would realize that and just look. Some people look at the price of a bike and say, well, that's what I can afford, and that's what they can afford, and that's what they end up with. Hopefully they tough it out and let their body get used to doing cycling, and that's part of it too. Is it takes a good 3-4 weeks before your butt develops some we'll call them calluses, but it's just a matter of getting your rear end and your hands and everything used to being in a position that it normally isn't in. Wow, we're up to almost 20 minutes here. I'm not going to ride too far. I know this trail's probably bouncing the camera all over the place. And finding a camera that doesn't bounce is a trick. I'm gonna stop up here and talk to you guys without the noise of the. Another thing is this bike. Mid-drive bikes tend to be a little noisier than non-mid-drive bikes, but the active line, the lowest version of the Bosch line, isn't noisy. It's, matter of fact, quieter than this. You can hardly hear any noise out of the motor, and that's just the way they built it. With that thought in mind, it doesn't have a high torque motor, so it doesn't actually cause it need it to be doesn't need to be I'll move closer so I can sit down, you guys can see me. Turn just a little bit so it's kind of straight. So it's stinky out here. I don't think I'll stay here long. So the active line motor is really quiet, and it's what I have on my Trek, so I don't hear much noise out of it at all. This bike doesn't make much noise. It can be noisy, but this one today isn't being noisy. I have my pivots all greased and everything cleaned, and it functions as it should. I still have motor maintenance that's due. The chain needs to be cleaned, which I'm going to do a video on and show you guys what chain cleaner I use. Other than that, I've never had a flat tire on this bike, believe it or not. 2,500 miles, no flat tires, and with no special prep either. There's no tire liners, no slime, none of those tire preps. I've actually I use slime in my wife's bike because I got tired of it going flat all the time, and it only worked as long as you were riding the bike regularly. Every day it would reseal that hole, but if you stopped riding for a week or so, you'd come out there and they'd have a flat tire, and then she would be like, I'm not riding it until you change that inner tube. So I went through 3 or 4 inner tubes on her bike. She's been pretty lucky though lately, and we haven't had problems, and most of the problems with that ended up being the rim strip was cutting the inner tube. So those of you out there having problems with flats and you can't seem to find anything in the tire, it's probably the rim strip. They use that banding material, and that is a piss poor choice for a rim strip, and all it does is cover up the spoke nipples. So those of you that are having problems, you could cut that off and put in duct tape or something that has some fiber in it to around it. The best thing used to be that tape they used for packing tape with the nylon strips in it. We used to use that in the bike shop all the time because it was cheap and it worked as well as anything else. Another option is Velox, V-E-L-O-X. It's made in France. It is what all the professional cyclists use on their rim strips. So if you can find that in an appropriate size, which I don't know what it is off the top of my head, it's pretty wide. And if you can find Velox in a really wide strip, it's a cloth tape, and it works really well too. So keep that in mind. So if you go out this spring and find your tires flat and you didn't ride the bike all winter and there shouldn't be flat, there's one of two things: either the rim strip cut the inner tube, or it's just normal air loss. And that happens with rubber tubes. They do lose air. Sometimes you get some that never lose air, and some that you get lose air over a week, 2 weeks. These, I didn't put any air in them when I went out and got on it the first time this winter. I'm in the spring, so these must be good tubes. So keep that in mind. Springtime, you should make sure you do all your spring checks, and I've went over them in previous videos. So the bike holds up well. I know there's a lot of you out there that have had lots of problems with the batteries, the controllers. This is a first gen bike. I bought this a few months after like 6-8 months into them starting to sell them. So this is a first gen bike, and I think they did have better quality control when they first started out than they do now. One, they can't travel to China to check on the factory to see if they're doing their quality control, and two, they don't really open up the bikes when they get here. They're pretty much the way they are. I've had some questions about the baskets. If you want to change the rack and buy a rack that has mounts for the basket on the back, you can put them on the 1.0, the back basket and rack. You're going to need both because the rack that's on this doesn't have any way to mount that big square basket that goes on the back. The front of the bike does not have the mounts for the front rack, so your SOL there, you're not going to be able to get a rack for the front of it that mounts the way it does on the 2.0. They make racks for the front of these bikes, but they mount differently. So keep that in mind. I just wanted to do an update on what we've changed. The bike is 2,500 miles plus, no problems other than, and I didn't mention the pedals. So I have their BMX pedals, mountain bike pedals, platform pedals. Look for a platform pedal that has actual bearings in it, not plastic sleeves like the folding pedals that come on there. They have no bearings in them. They're just plastic sleeves. When the sleeves wear out, the pedals will eventually fall off and leave you stranded somewhere. Keep that in mind. So I'm going to call it a video. I'll post this tonight. If you have any questions about the video, just comment and I'll answer them. The channel hasn't gotten so big that I still can't answer people's questions. I think we're at 829 subscribers. I don't know that I'll monetize this channel if it ever gets to 1,000. I just don't know if I'll do that. And if I do, the money, whatever money that comes in through the monetization program will be either given to veterans charity or used to buy product for giveaway. I haven't decided one way or another. So hope you all have a great day. Get out and ride your bike. Springtime's here.